welcome to the Voice of the Coast. I am your host, Danika Foley. With me, we have Dr. Eric Melancon, St. Mary Parish coroner. Now, typically, when we have you here, we go straight for the jugular. We talk about COVID, but we are talking about cold weather and pretty much the effects of cold weather, particularly on our elderly and aging population. Now, we had Ms. Beverly DiMaggio, who is the executive director with St. Mary Council on Aging. She was here just not too long ago, and we talked about the elderly. This is before our winter season came to a winter blizzard. But now that we're starting to thaw out, I mean, have you received any calls from, that sector of the population?
Well, as of right now, we have not had any cold-related deaths, nor do I hope we have any. I do think people are prepared well. In fact, I was just at Tiger Island Hardware, and before the cold spell came in, there was a lot of activity, people getting prepared. I would just ask that everybody make sure that they're preparing not just themselves, but their neighbors, family, friends, et cetera, especially the elderly. Go in there and assist with them. What people don't also realize too is that sometimes the cold weather leads to power outages, and we need to be checking on our elderly during that time as well. With no power or especially electricity generated heat, their risk of hypothermia becomes much greater.
Yeah. Now, we don't have a very large homeless population, but every now and then you might see a transient who does not have a place to go. Have you heard anything maybe related to that?
No, we hadn't heard of any homeless people having any issues. I know a lot of the law enforcement officers, they tend to bring them to hotels and they give them special discounts and things like that for those really frigid nights, which is really nice and definitely a community service offered for free.
Yeah, definitely. So good news thus far. So it's unfortunate we have to transition to talk about COVID. We haven't had numbers in quite a long time. Do you know what our numbers are at the moment?
Well, our overall numbers, just for this year, we have 15 COVID-related deaths. Unfortunately, we've had a very active coroner's office over the last month and a half where we've already dealt with 94 deaths in the parish. It seems like a lot, which it truly is. I mean, when we usually handled around 350 cases a year, last year being exceptional, being almost 600, at the pace we're setting now, we're going to top 800 this year.
Wait a minute, wait. When you say 600, that means
deaths.
Statewide?
No, I'm talking about deaths in St. Mary Parish for last year. We were at almost 600 deaths.
In just St. Mary Parish?
In just St. Mary Parish.
I think I stopped counting at 100 when we were doing the updates.
That was COVID. We had 103 COVID-related deaths, and I believe we're up to
okay, mine went somewhere else.
118 now.
Wow. So we're in a new year. What are we looking? If you could just do year to date about.
Well, year to date, as far as COVID, like I said, we're at 15. We've had 94 deaths total, and unfortunately, we've already had 2 suicides this year.
Yes, that's unfortunate. And we talked a little bit about that during the break. So let's go to talk more about that. We know that it has no respect of person. But what are you seeing more? Those suicides concentrated in what? Like I guess maybe age range.
Well, the ages range somewhere in there. I think our youngest was in late 20s, early 30s, with our oldest being in the mid 70s. So people need to understand that as people get depressed, or especially during this pandemic with the isolation and things like that, we need to be more responsive, and sometimes the signs are there, sometimes they're not. So we need to talk again to our loved ones and see what else we can do to help identify that. If there is warning signs, people with extreme apathy, loss of interest in things that they normally do, social withdrawal, then those are the things that we should try and discuss with them and try and get them in to see someone to either start medicines or adjust medicines, or get them some counseling, whether it be through a church agency or a medical agency, one of the two.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned, we talked about COVID being a byproduct of COVID. You may not have necessarily died because you had COVID, but are you seeing many people are becoming more and more depressed, or just not feeling right because of COVID? I mean, people are used to being around. I mean, we're such a social community, social state. I mean, everyone just now you're at a point now you don't even see your friends. And we're getting to the end of this segment. We're going to pick up because I really want to talk about that because that's something we talked about with Ms. Beverly. Friends coming together and they're like, "Hey, who is this person again?" Or don't know what to do when it comes to interacting with people. So we'll come back and pick up on that. So come on back right here in the Voice of the Coast. Welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. Again, I'm your host, Danika Foley. With me, we have Dr. Eric Melancon, St. Mary Parish coroner. Now, let's keep going where we are because start talking about COVID. A byproduct of COVID, suicides. That's just one, but there's others. That are elderly people in nursing homes.
Right.
And it's just happening left and right.
We need to understand that depression is certainly a byproduct of COVID. It's not to say that every suicide that we've had has been depression related to COVID, but pandemic stress certainly is a true entity, and I think we all need to realize that it's something valid and we need to account for it. I think our nursing home populations have dwindled tremendously because the isolation that these people are experiencing because they're not able to have family, they're not able to gather and drink coffee and things like that and do any of the social things that they had. A lot of them have lost their will to live. That's a very difficult thing for me to swallow because while these mitigation efforts are great, the cost is also very great in my opinion. And at this point, I would just ask anyone who has a family member in a nursing home, do that extra step to contact them. And as soon as this is open, please get over there and do what you can to help brighten their day.
Call on the phone.
FaceTime if you can do it.
Show them how to press a button to FaceTime. I had to do that with my mom, actually. I'm like, "Mom, press the button. Just press the button."
I had a nursing home resident who's a patient of mine came to the office the other day for a visit and was just so relieved to be out of the nursing home outside of the facility. And that's sad because, we call this social distancing. There's nothing social about being distant.
That's right.
So I don't like the nomenclature that they use. To me, it's pure isolation, and it can be very devastating.
With words have power. So they, but pandemic stress, that's going to be something. I've talked to social workers and I've asked, what is the world going to look like? What are our children going to look like? There are kids who have been born during the pandemic and don't know what other people look like and other children look like.
Right.
That's amazing.
Well, and a lot of the things we've adopted, I hope don't stick.
I know.
I don't want to wear a mask the rest of my life. I'm too social for that, and I'm certainly want to see everybody and tell them hello and give them a hug. I don't like some of these things that they say is the new norm. I don't want to go to a new norm like that. I want to go back a lot of the ways that we have been.
Let's talk about vaccinations then. Let's get right to that. Last time you were here, you talked about you yourself took the vaccination.
I did.
A lot of our first responders and doctors are at the front line. People who are at the front lines, they're getting the vaccinations first. In addition to our elderly population, we went from 70, now we're at the 65 level, and I'm assuming they're going to continue to go down. When do you think that the vaccinations, are they moving quick enough? Are people still scared? I don't know. I've seen some people who said they would never take it are now taking it.
Well, there is an inherent fear of the vaccination propagated by poor information. I think everybody should take it. The vaccines have been created on a platform that's been around for 20 plus years, so it's not a new technology. It's just a more rapid way of developing vaccines, just like what they do for the flu. It is an mRNA vaccine that is not going to change your DNA. There's no microchips. Let's put aside all this propaganda and pardon my French, BS that people want to go out there and make people scared to take it. I took it. The side effect I had the first time was a sore arm. The second one was I had flu-like symptoms for a day. After that, I've been good. I feel like everybody should take the vaccine. Now, the only exception I have to that is people who've already had the disease. Number one, we don't have enough vaccine right now to get everybody vaccinated in a the sooner we get people vaccinated, the quicker we get out of this pandemic. So the second thing is people typically still have antibodies. That's a false rumor that they lose the antibodies. I've tested patients 9 months later, they still have antibodies. And lastly, if you've already had the disease, you've proven you can survive the disease. So chances are you would do that again. Let's vaccinate those who have never had the disease, who are at high risk first, and then hurry up and vaccinate everybody else, including teachers, which I'm not sure why we hadn't started.
Yeah.
But get the vaccine so we can all go back to our old normal.
Yes, all right. Well, we're going to take another break. Come on back right here on the Voice of the Coast. All right, well, welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. I am your host, Danika Foley. We're just kind of like just getting it in, and I thank you so much because I think there's some information that's been out there that has just been erroneous, and I don't like putting out false information, and I don't like to cause a panic. I just like putting the information and letting people get it. So you're fine. You've taken both sets of vaccinations. People who have the antibodies in their bodies, it's still there. You said it's going to be there. It's just going to be there. We
don't know how long it's going to last. I've tested a patient who had the disease back in March of last year, and I tested him in December, and he was still antibody positive. So the information put out by the vaccine companies saying that, oh, we don't think it's going to last more than 3 months. I will tell you, I've yet to test a patient who's already had the disease that did not have the antibody.
Yeah. Okay. Now, word on the street is that, and I want to clear it out here too, that this vaccination is going to be required for doing when you do your child vaccinations when kids are small. This is going to be in that list of vaccinations.
Well, technically, they've never truly required a vaccine. Like I said before, if I wanted to go into medical school, I was required to be vaccinated for hepatitis B. So it will be required for certain things that you do, maybe required for airline travel or cruise ship travel or something like that. We don't know. I mean, it may be. Right now it is not required, but certainly highly recommended, and I would highly recommend that they get it. Again, all those people who don't want to get it, you're taking a risk with your life, and I just think it's a poor risk because you never know how it's going to affect you. I've seen people, recently we had a young fellow die of COVID complications after being in a hospital for over a month. I'm sure that person wouldn't have thought I needed a vaccine, but they may have. Again, we want to be able to afford the opportunity for everyone to get vaccinated, everyone to be protected, and the whole 9 yards.
Okay. Now, we're not seeing too many children contract or be exposed as much as adults are.
Well, there's still a large population of children who are getting the disease. Again, they typically don't die from the disease. There is a characterization called MIS-C, which is multi-system inflammatory syndrome, and that's due to COVID-19. That has picked up a little bit. Again, it's kind of a similar inflammatory reaction as what people get when they get the COVID, but in children it's a little bit different. It's just manifested in a different way. I'm sure we'll vaccinate kids as well, and hopefully we'll have enough vaccine in the very near future to be able to do it. Johnson & Johnson is pending approval for their vaccine, and I think they just got the approval. If not, they're still just barely pending and expected to roll it out in March. It is the 1 dose, and a lot of people are waiting for the 1 dose vaccine. I will tell you the efficacy of the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines are listed at 90 and 95% respectively. The Johnson & Johnson is listed at 66%. So you still get significant protection, but you don't get 90 to 95%.
Right.
You're getting much better with the other two. So while it takes 2 doses and people seem to think that it's a hassle, let's make sure we get it.
Yeah.
You know, and for those who are wanting it and maybe not meeting criteria, call whoever that's given it, whether it be Ochsner or Franklin Foundation. You can look it up on the website and see who's actually given it. and put your name on the list. I've actually been given the vaccine for first responders, and when we don't have a person that shows up, we're going to give the vaccine to somebody. And they don't have to meet the criteria at that point. And as long as you're readily available, we can get that vaccine to you.
Okay. Now, really quickly, we've talked about everything, but we don't talk about the flu. I haven't heard of anybody coming down with the flu. Like, what's up with that?
Well,
we have just about 30 seconds.
Well, the flu, we hadn't seen a whole lot. I'm not sure anybody's testing for it. If you look it up on the CDC website, we have less than 1% incidence of flu, which is unheard of. Again, most people, all the symptoms of COVID, flu, and all these other respiratory viruses, they all mimic each other, but we're testing more for COVID. And again, some people may be thinking they have COVID and just staying home.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
we don't know. I don't see a whole lot of flu. Hopefully we will have a very mild flu season because we certainly deserve it.
Yes, especially in light of everything that's going on. All right, come on back. One last segment right here on the Voice of the Coast. Welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. Again, I am your host, Danika Foley. This is the last segment with our doc on hand, Dr. Eric Melancon, who is the St. Mary Parish coroner. Now, let's talk about your coroner duties. I think we've kind of, you're switching back between doctor and coroner. So oftentimes when we're here, we like to talk about orders of protective custody. With everything that's going on, are people still, filing those orders?
They are. We're trying to make the process a little easier as well. We've installed a new program called a mental health log for us, which is to help expedite the order of protective custody and also maybe be able to do them on site. We're beta testing that now and working with both hospitals and ERs and stuff like that so that we can get the CECs done a little bit more expeditiously, since they have a lot of pediatrics that go out, since we don't have pediatric inpatient services here. If I can get those CECs done before they leave, it saves us $100 every time. So rather than spend the $30,000 we do every year on outsourced CECs, maybe we can keep that here for a program that cost me about $1,500.
Right.
So all I have to do is about 10% of them, and I certainly pay for it twice.
And speaking of saving money, I have seen that van on the roadway. I see the coroner's van, and I'm like, yes, we got our own van, and it's just good to see that. I mean, especially with knowing how much money it saves the parish.
It does. For a $500 investment in the van, certainly we've gotten our money's worth out of it. We continue to utilize it every day. In fact, it made a trip to Jefferson Parish today to bring 2 autopsies, which would have cost me $600 in the past.
Okay.
So it was a very economical trip.
Yes. Now we're going to talk about sexual assault. I know when you got in office, that was one of your first orders of business, was that we're going to have a sexual assault response team. And I just, because, there are times when, a lot of sexual assault cases have gone unreported because, it feels like the system fails you. There's, how do you, file these reports? Are you going to follow up on it? Particularly, I think that happened in New Orleans Parish, where things were just not reported correctly and all these cases just went unsolved. Not saying it happened here, but, it makes the victim afraid.
Correct. And my fear with the sexual assault cases is that there was going to be underreporting because of the lack of victim support and things like that. A lot of the other things were already in place. Sheriff Smith has trained one of his detectives who does a fantastic job at evaluating people with sexual assault and has that certification. And I think she's been very aggressive with trying to make sure that the victims are taken care of. I'm still not pleased with the way it's still going. I've met with Dr. Riggins, our Region 3 director, and I'm trying to improve the process. The dilemma is we're on the furthest outskirts of the region, and we share a different judicial district. So, forget the logistics just aren't meshing as easily as I would like. So I may wind up having to take that back in-house and doing it myself.
Okay.
which, as long as the victim advocacy is there and people are not afraid to report, we certainly want that to happen, and I want the victim advocacy to be here in St. Mary Parish. Unfortunately, in the past, it's been farmed out to other parishes, and just because nobody took an interest in it. The interest is here, and we're going to get it taken care of.
Awesome.
It's just a slow process.
Yeah, I had just one last question, and that's about our morgue. I know you also wanted to get a mobile morgue. Well, just tell us how's the morgue operating now?
Morgue's operating fine. We've expanded our EMD logs to provide reports for that, and we still don't have the mobile morgue yet, but that's in the works, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. As always, thank you guys for staying with us. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on Facebook. We are KWBJ TV 22. Also, there's also a St. Mary Parish coroner page, so you can follow them as well. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.